Howdy ho, stream. Been a couple days since I started this OpenStack Federation migration. Wasn't able to get too much done on it yesterday. So yesterday I spent pretty much the whole day reading documentation. So today I'm going to go ahead and get started back on trying to get converted. So let's see how that goes. Alright, so if you'll remember or not, I am using Okta as my identity provider, and Keystone is the service provider, but technically the service provider is going to be mod auth melon. And so where we left off the other day was we took a working shibboleth installation and shut down shibboleth D, the shibboleth daemon, and we removed the shibboleth configuration from Apache. And so we had also generated the cert files and key files that we needed, and the metadata file that we needed for mod auth melon. But after yesterday's research, I realized that stuff was done incorrectly. And so I'm going to go and pick up, where we're going to pick up is from there, with generating the cert and the key and the metadata for mod auth melon. So let's go ahead and get started on that. Whoops. Wrong window in focus. There we go. All right. So here we go. All right, so we're logged on to the all-in-one instance, which is running RDO Pike right now as an all-in-one. And so I have created a directory on that called /root/melon. And I took a copy of the melon create metadata.sh that comes with the mod auth melon pkg. There we go. So I took a copy of this script here, and I've moved it into the /root/melon just for, you don't have to do that, but I was having some weird execution errors being able to run it from that location, so I just put a copy of it in this directory so that I can run it from there. So this should be the correct parameters. I'm not 100% sure on that, but I know it's more correct than what I had done a couple days ago. So we're going to go ahead and run that. And that is going to create the following 3 files. These 3 right here. So we have our key, our cert, and our .xml file, which is the service provider's metadata. So let's go ahead and open up the metadata file and see how that was created and if those values look correct or not. So what we're looking for is the entity ID. These are going to be the big ones for us. So we need entity ID, which is how our identity provider is going to kind of know that this is us. That's how it's going to uniquely identify us. So that looks right. And then we also need to make sure, so for our identity provider, since it's Okta, when we get to the point where we're creating our Okta application, we're going to need to know what the assertion consumer service locations are. And so that's why we're checking this out right now, because we have to manually fill that out with Okta in the application. I haven't seen a way to just upload this metadata. There might be a way, I really don't know. I haven't found it if there is. And so we're just going to take and remember this value right here in the assertion consumer service under the location. So we're going to need to take that value, and here in just a moment we're going to put that into our Okta application. So now we need to go to the Apache directory into conf.d, and I think I may have reverted my changes. I did. Okay. So let me see here what we've got. Okay. So I want to create a backup of my shibboleth config before I make any changes. And so we're going to just name this we'll just add -shibboleth to that. That'll keep Apache from loading it. And then we will take the melon one that I had, and we'll put that as the primary. Then we'll go ahead and pop that open. Here's where it gets a little confusing to me. In the documentation, most of the examples just secure /v3, so, and then everything below it. So we'll start with that and see what happens. hop over to the documentation. And let's see here, we need to pull up our example. So doesn't look like that wants to show up for some reason. Okay, here it goes. There we go. So just kind of cruising through here. And so we're going to take this Apache directive, the require valid user, and we're going to do our auth type is melon. Then on melon enable, we want to use info. I believe info is the user is authorized to access the resource. Then we populate the environment with information about the user. If the user isn't authorized, we don't populate the environment, but we don't deny the user access either. I think this is what we need, so that if you are using basic Keystone Auth as well, that would continue to work, but we may have to change that. But I'm going to go with info for now. We're going to stick with the default of the melon variable. Going to stick with default on melon secure cookie. Leaving some of this stuff as default. Let's see, melon IDP selects in which attribute we should dump the remote IDP entity ID. Okay, I'm gonna leave that default as well for right now. And I kind of think that the melon set env may be equivalent to Shibboleth's attribute mapping, but I don't know that for sure. So for now, I'm just going to leave that unset, and that may be something we have to come back and edit as well. And I'm going to leave that for now. leaving that one. This looks like it could be helpful during debug, so we will probably be coming back to turn that on once things start to fail, and we'll see if we can get some of that SAML session information to help us debug. We may not need that because I use another tool in Firefox called the SAML tracer, which has pretty much everything you'll need to debug a problem. So melon require allows us to access. Okay, we're going to just leave that as it is for now. That I do not think is going to apply to us right now. It might later. Melon endpoint path. Okay. Okay, I'm going to hop back over here to this other melon documentation for just a moment. And I believe let's see here. I believe this was covered up in section, either early section 5 or section 4. Oh, right here, I believe. Okay. So let me hop out of this file over here real quick. Yeah, so we're just gonna leave that as it is. Man, that part is so confusing. Let's see if we can get the Federation. Yeah, let's take a look at this OpenStack documentation for Melon real quick. This is the wrong stuff. This is for OpenStack Ansible. Yeah, I think this is it. Yeah, I think this is what we need here. Okay. Oh yeah, okay, so in this example, they're doing a location on v3, enable info, okay. Endpoint path. Okay, I see what's going on here. So, huh. Okay. Alright, don't mind me, I'm just doing a little reading off screen here of something else for this configuration. Gotta get some of these tabs closed out. I swear I've got like 50 or 60. You ever just open tabs and keep going and don't ever close them until your computer starts crashing? That is a day in the life of browsing the web with me. Alright. Getting there. Getting there. Let's see here. Thirsty. All right. Okay, I think alright, I think we're ready to look back at this again. I swear I just reread that bit of documentation about 5 times. This about the this. So in the ModMelon GitHub page, there's a if you go into the docs directory and then go into that Melon user guide, this thing's very in depth. Took me hours last night to read, and I only got through about 7. Like I think I'm at 7 dot something. Covers so much, so much stuff. It's good though. Need to know. Makes troubleshooting this a lot easier. But it's just a little overwhelming because there's so much to it. What? Let's see if we can make a little sense out of it. So, according to our Melon endpoint path, I think we may need to regenerate the metadata and stuff again. So, we will go ahead and do that. Because up here in the create metadata example, we want to use the entity ID and the endpoint URL. Okay, so using our example data, the entity ID will be /melon/metadata, and the endpoint URL will be /melon. So I think, whoops. So I think when we do this, what I want is the entity ID to be v3 melon metadata, and the endpoint URL to just be v3 melon, like that. Yeah, that looks more correct on our endpoints down here. that looks like whoops, let me get that stupid Chrome out of the way here. So yeah, that looks a little more correct to me on what these things should be. Say we'll be trial by fire until we figure it out. All right, so now back into our Apache config we go. And this is the one that is going to be our Melon endpoint path. And that is going to be I named my identity provider Okta when I did that. Oh man, this is making me think that I've done this wrong too. I don't know, I'm just gonna set this up and then it'll be a little easier once we see what kind of identity, or I mean what our payloads, our authentication request payloads and stuff like that look like. So we'll just go ahead and power through this and see how bad it is, and then we will try and fix it after that. So we'll go with IDP, IDP. I hate these generic examples. I'm going to be so glad when I get this figured out, because I'm going to redo like a whole very fancy start to finish video where you can go from basic Keystone auth to Federation, and it'll be real world examples, not these generic example.coms. We'll create an internal domain like what I've got here and go from start to finish on that. Be a lot easier, I think. Makes it more clear. Okay. Let's see here. So in location v3, they have so I'm looking at stupid docs again. So in their location v3, the very first thing is the email enable info. The order of these doesn't matter, but I'm going to follow the order just so that I can compare it to the file easier, and just kind of go down that line like that. Okay. So I'm going to exit, because the next thing it starts asking for is the key file and the cert file and the metadata file. And so, whoops, I'm going to, we'll exit here. We're going to exit that file, and then we're going to go back one directory, make a directory called SAML, and then we're going to move all those files that we created into that SAML folder in our HTTP root, and CD in there, verify that permissions are correct. Yeah, I don't know, we may have to change those permissions so that who does the stupid Apache run as? Probably as HTTPD. Runs as user Apache. Okay. Excuse me. Dang, allergies. All right. Get so sidetracked. Jeez. All right. Now we want to go back to our conf.d and going to edit our keystone file. Okay, and then we'll go back to comparing. So the next directive we want is this. That is an Etsy HTTPD SAML, and we're gonna name this Keystone Fed dot key. And next we need to do one for the cert. And that is going to be Etsy HTTPD SAML Keystone Fed dot cert. Then the next thing we need is our service provider metadata, which is the XML file that we moved in there. And we'll call that our melon metadata.xml. Next, we're going to need our melon IDP metadata file. Now, we don't have one of these yet. this is going to come from Okta for us. And we're going to call that our Okta metadata. .xml. But we will get that from our Okta here in just a minute when we switch over to it to make our when we make our application in Okta. Okay, so the next thing is the Melon endpoint path, which we've defined here. Move that up here. And then the last thing they have in this block is the Melon IDP. So in the next block, we're going to change this up a bit to match, because it said that the endpoint path needs to match the location above. So we're gonna do that. So we'll just copy pasta that right in so we don't get any typos. And actually on Shibboleth, it looks like I was using a location match. And this is using a location. I cannot remember what the difference of those directives is, so let's go read that real quick. That is a core Apache module. Oh, okay. So that's it. The difference was we were using a regular expression, and that's why you needed to use the match. And we are no longer using the regular expression, so we don't need match any longer. So we'll just go ahead and make that a location. All right. Okay. Lost my place. There we are. Okay, and inside that block we have an auth type, which we have defined here. We'll move that down here. And we have a Melon enable auth on this one. Okay. And nowhere does it require a valid user in the OpenStack example, which I find weird. So if we see here, there's no mention of the require valid user, but it is definitely mentioned in the Melon documentation. So I'm going to go ahead and remove it here, just since the OpenStack documentation doesn't mention it, and we'll see if we end up needing it or not. So let's go ahead and save our file. And okay, I'd already stopped Shibboleth, it looks like. Okay. Now we want to go ahead and restart Apache. we may get an error here because yeah. So if you remember, I renamed those files in that thing, and then I didn't go actually do the renaming. So we're gonna rename key to, heck, I already forgot what I was gonna name it. That was real smart. Let's see. Okay, there we go. We'll rename that from this to key stone fed.key. And we'll rename that to keystone cert there, like so. And we'll rename our last one to melon metadata.xml. And I believe we're going to have to hop over and get our application created in Okta so that we can get that metadata file from them before we can fire Apache back up. So let's do that. Let's see. All right. Both my girls are home from school now. Okay. So let's put up Chrome here. And so I've set up a new developer account at Okta. This is free. You can go to, I believe it's developer.okta.com and click on the free account, and then it just takes an email address, a password, and a couple of minutes, and once you verify your account, you're able to get in and start creating applications, and they can support SAML. So that's what we're going to do. And when you very first log in, this is what the dashboard is going to look like here. This is a new style. This is their new dashboard. Their documentation says that if you're wanting to create your own SAML application and not use one of the turnkey applications, you need to go up here to the top left hand side where it says Developer Console and just hover over that triangle and then select Classic UI. And once you select Classic UI, you should get this screen. And then you're going to want to come over here to the right under the shortcuts and click Add Applications. We want to just create new app. It's a web. We want to select SAML 2.0. Then click Create. Then we're going to name our app. So for me, this is RDO Melon Test. You can select an app logo if you want. I'm not going to do that. Don't care. Okay, the single sign-on URL. What is that? What does the value need to be? So we hover over the question mark, and if you read through here, it says this is the SAML assertion consumer service. So if you'll remember, whenever I generated that our metadata, I said we needed to know what those assertion consumer service locations were. So we're going to take our metadata and go get the very first location. So for us, it's going to be this aio.mrice.internal:5000 v3/melon/post response. Going to get that, and we're going to paste that right in there. So I'm not sure on this right here. This is checked by default, and this works with Shibboleth. Use this this URL. This works for Shibboleth. So I'm gonna assume this is also gonna work for Melon, but we may need to adjust that and use fill these values in ourselves. So above it says, or in here it says it's usually the same. It very well might be, but it might not be. But for now, we're just going to go ahead and use the default. The audience URI, the application defined unique identifier that is the intended audience of the SAML assertion. This is most often the service provider entity ID of your application. So we have our service provider entity ID at the top here. So that is this value. Oh, and I think, yep, I'm hiding all of that stuff I'm talking about with Chrome. Okay. So let me scroll back down first real quick. So this in the XML, we have the assertion consumer service. This is the very first one. We took the value from that and put that into our single sign-on URL above. Next, we needed to know the service provider entity ID. And so to get that, we go to where the entity ID is defined in the metadata, and we get its value here. And so we're going to copy that, and we're going to put that here. Okay, we're going to leave that blank. Now, ModMelon supports several different name ID formats. Let's see. Let's take a look inside our metadata and see if one is by default being asked for. So we'll do a search for name ID format. Okay, here it is defined in our metadata. This is the service provider metadata, and so right now we're saying that we want it in transient. What does that mean? So we can come back over to our documentation. And if I could spell. Okay. Here we go. So Melon defaults to a name ID format of transient when it generates its metadata. You will need to manually edit the name ID format in your Melon service provider metadata if you wish to use a name ID format other than this. When Melon generates its authentication request, it selects the first name ID format found in its metadata as the name ID policy. So we're just going to leave this as it is, because if we come back over here and look, our identity provider also supports transient. So we're just going to select that. Now we need some attributes. And let's say we want one called email. We want that to be user.email, I believe is, oh, there it is, user.email. And so that's going to take some of the attributes that are already kind of defined in Okta. You can create more, but there's a few that they have by default, and I'm just going to use email, first name, and last name for this example. So we'll go with first name, and we want that to be user.firstname, I believe. Yep, user.firstname. And then we'll go with last name, and we'll do user.lastname. There we go. So these attributes will be sent along with our SAML response from the identity provider upon a successful authentication with it. So let's go ahead and preview what that would look like. And we have our name ID format, and that is going to be sent as transient, which is what our service provider expects it to be in. Then this is who's going to get it. So that looks correct. That's what we had defined earlier. Hopefully this works. Then we get into our attributes. We're going to have the email. These are coming in as unspecified. Now, in Shibboleth, there's an attribute mapping section where we're able to set this up. I am not 100% sure how to do that with Melon yet, or if it'll even be required, but that's something we'll find out when we get there. So this all looks good. We've got our user email, user first name, user last name. Those are coming in with the attribute name as last name, first name, and email, which is what we want. All right, so we're good to go on that. We're going to go ahead and click next. And I'm an Okta customer adding an internal app. So I'm sure it's obvious, but aio.mrice.internal, that does not exist on the internet, that exists on my LAN. So if you don't have access to my bind server, then you're not going to be able to make that DNS query. So that is an internal app, definitely. Even if your app is externally available, it's still your app. So this is where you would do this. Even you're working for a company and the company is paying you to manage this kind of stuff, you're still an Okta customer adding an internal application, even if it's public facing. The only way you'd want to do something different is if you are a software vendor and you want to integrate your app with Okta. So we are definitely not that. And this is like a little survey. Don't really care to take it, so I'm not going to. finish maybe. Yeah, there we go. All right, so now our application is created. They give me a URL. So we're gonna grab that metadata, and we're gonna move metadata to, what did I name that file? Do we remember? octa_metadata.xml. octa_metadata.xml. All right. Check those file permissions. Okay, and let's just look over that metadata real quick. This is something you definitely don't want to share with people. I'm not worried about it because this is a test app. This will be gone before you know it. And the only thing you're going to be able to do if you decide to steal my key is you're going to have to get into my network, and then you can log into my OpenStack that'll probably already be deleted by that time. And so, but this is definitely information you wouldn't want to share with people. This should be considered private information. You don't want to just stick it out there for everybody. But the main thing I wanted was the entity ID. Okay. All right. So that's all right. Now let's try and start Apache back up. Okay. Hopefully it'll be a little happier this time. It is very possible that I forgot to load the mod authmelon directive, or I mean module, and so that is probably what's happening right now. Let's see. Go etsy conf.modules.d. No, it looks like that is being loaded. Okay, so let's see what the journal control has to say. What? Huh. Wonder what kind of typo I've got in there that's causing this. So lots of lines of failure here. Well, Okay, we no longer need this for right now, so let's just turn that off. Let's go ahead and move these keystone files we're not using. Just to make sure. Okay, now we'll go ahead and take a look at that keystone file again. See if we can see what the heck we did wrong. Go up to the top. Dinger. This stuff looks right. Got my opens and my closes. Location. Open and close. It's closed. Not missing any brackets or anything. Okay, let's see. Come on, no whammy, no whammy, no whammy. I think it's gonna fail again. Son of a gunovich. Let's see what this control has to say. What on earth? Okay. yesterday. So yesterday I spent pretty much the whole day reading documentation. Okay, so frustrating. Fixed. So frustrating. Fixed. Well, let's see if we have this alleged fix. We don't even have the file that they say is fixed. Well, let's see if we have this alleged fix. We don't even have the file that they say. Well, something is clearly wrong. Something is clearly wrong. Well, what on earth have we done to break our OpenStack? Well, what on earth have we done to break our OpenStack? Wait, we've done that. That's what we just ran. Yeah? Yep. We've done that. That's what we just ran. Yeah? Yep. Oh, haha. We have a typo, folks. It's always user error. All right. Keystone. Oh, now let's try that. Keystone, Melon, Octa. Folks. Always user error. All right. Keystone. Now let's try that. Keystone. We have a typo, folks. Always. All right. Oi. Oh my god, come on. What was the error? Oi. Oh my god, come on. What was the error? Oi. God bless America. What in the F? God bless America. What in the F? Okay. Okay, so why don't you want to start from the service? Okay. Okay, so why don't you want to start from the service? Oh, lordy, lordy. Why is that service going to do that to me? I swear, it just wants me to be frustrated. So... Is Mod Melon being loaded? I'm not seeing that. It's got to be being loaded though, because if it wasn't, we'd be getting errors about unknown directives. But I'm certainly not seeing anything from it. Huh. Well, let's just try and hit this stupid web interface of it. Okay, this sucks. All right. Well, I mean, it's serving up Horizon. Why is it not wanting to start? Come on, exit that thing. There it goes. Okay. What in the F? How frustrating. I gotta go find an adult. Sadly, it's already almost 4:30 on a Friday, and most of my adults that I turn to have probably left work for the day. Goodness, it's hot. Oh yeah, hey, here's one. Oh my god. That ad is something else. An asset. That is hilarious. Oh my god. Alright, man. So, as you can see, the journal control. No, it was in this one. Yeah. I think options is probably defined just right there. Unless there's more maybe in the httpd.conf. Yeah. Yeah, that's the one I just catted to. Right here. This is the same thing that the using just dash X did. It would start up and run, but no worky through the service. I can open up a port on my firewall. Man, I wonder if this is some SE Linux bullshit. Let's see. God, I hate SE Linux sometimes. Come on, no whammy, no whammy, no whammy, no whammy. Start. SE Linux, I hate you. Oh my god. Ugh. Man. I think SE Linux is a bigger mystery than Keystone for me. Good lord. Alright, well thanks man for helping out. Now hopefully I can get a little further on this thing. Alright, so now let's go over here to Chrome. Close up the stupid stream window. And let's see. Actually, let's do this from Firefox because it's easier to accept self-signed certificates there and make them continue to work. So okay, cool, man. Thank you. I will check that out. I'm just going to keep it turned off for now because I hate SE Linux. See you, man. Have a good weekend. Okay. Get over here to this window. And let's get Firefox shared. And disable the terminal for just a few moments. Whoa. All right. So I'm currently logged into, well, I bet the session's dead now. Let's see. Yeah, okay. So there we go. Now I want to clear all my previous SAML sessions. And let me get another window shared so you can see the SAML tracer in action. Alright, so this is the SAML tracer extension for Firefox, and it is super duper useful for debugging SAML problems, which we are about to begin to have. So let me get this window placed somewhere real quick. That looks as good a place as any. All right, and let me hide that for a second, and let's try and log in and see what happens. We know it's going to fail, at least I do. So we'll go ahead and click our Okta, and now let's see if we got any kind of SAML traffic at all from the other one. So we'll turn that off and turn this on. Now let's take a look at this and see what it says. Nothing. Nothing. Fantastic. That is less than helpful. So we have got something super configured wrong right now. Let's see if we can figure out what, though. We may need to just close these to clear out all the previous stuff. So if you notice down here, we've got a cookie and there's a shib session. That was from an existing shibboleth session, and some of these values are definitely from that. So what I'm going to do is just go ahead and close this completely. So give me just a moment here. So turn that, and you can enjoy this crazy cat while I do that. Okay, now we'll get Foxfire restarted. And of course it wants to install updates, so we'll do that. Okay. Now let's try this again. Bye, kitty. Hello, OpenStack. And hello, Tracer. Okay, so let's try and see what happens. I'm expecting failure again, but possibly for a different failure. Nope, it's still trying to do the same thing. And we've still got the exact same thing, except I believe the shibboleth cookie is gone now. Yes. Okay. Well, that's good. At least that's gone. Okay, now we can work on trying to figure out what did we do wrong. Alright, so nothing of super value in that output. That's okay though. So we're going to go ahead and put the SAML tracer up because the problem is definitely going to be here in our Apache config somewhere. Or it could be in the metadata. Hell, it could be all kinds of places. Let's see what happens if we do. So the entity ID does not work. If we hit this, I am getting a 404. Yep, see, a 404. Well, God only knows what we've done wrong here. So let's check this out. Keystone main. What was our vhost? Yeah, that's right, 5,000. And what was that? Yep, v3 melon metadata. Okay, if I understood the docs right, which obviously I did not, we should be able to hit this URL, and it should give us back our service provider metadata. What was that melon directive to enable debug on melon? That was in our modoth melon. That was in our modoth melon README file. That's what that was. Let's see. When something goes wrong with your melon deployment, experience has shown that it can be frustratingly difficult to gather sufficient information to diagnose the problem. You ain't a kiddin'. Often you need access to the following: melon config, melon metadata, IDP metadata. We have all of these things, hooray. Although melon does log some debug messages to the Apache error log, the information is often incomplete and mixed in with other irrelevant messages. Wonderful. Well, let's add the directive melon diagnostics file. What the heck? Oh, there we go. Always got the wrong thing in focus. Okay. Then we need to set this directive to on and restart Apache. I'm going to turn SE Linux back on real quick. So, the problem with that issue I was having a minute ago was I had made Apache. Well, no, they still are. Why in the hell is it working now? I hate. Let's see. I'll tell you. I'm always at a loss for why things happen. When it comes to SE Linux, that is such a massive mystery to me. Whatever, it works. And we have SE Linux back on, and it works. I don't think we changed anything. I thought I changed the ownership of something a few minutes ago, but I don't know. Who knows? So is life. All right. Now we need to go to var log. I ain't seeing a new melon file in there. Let's hit it and see if we can trigger something to happen. No. Frustration, frustration, frustration. All right, I gotta step away, take a quick little break. I'll be back in a few minutes. Alright, turns out I'm going to need more than 5 minutes. I'm going to just end this for now. A little too frustrated, just need to walk away, take a few minutes, get some fresh air, clear my head, come back here maybe in an hour or so and try again. Do a little reading in the meantime, see if I can't figure out what I'm doing wrong. Check you out later.